Good morning, friends. This is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today it's a beautiful day on the farm. I don't know if you can hear it, but the birds are chirping. There's a nice breeze coming in, and we're going to have the temperature be at about 70 today. So I'm going to really enjoy it. But before I get out and enjoy the day, I am going to be making some monster cookie bars. Have you never heard of monster cookie bars? Well, if you haven't, I invite you back to my kitchen because they are really good. If you like peanut butter and you like chocolate, you're gonna love these. And if you can't eat flour, it's a bonus. There's no flour in these. So join me back in my kitchen and I'll show you how it's done. Thanks for sticking around. And like I said in the intro, we are making monster cookies. Now, monster cookies, I don't know where the name came from, but I do know that they are delicious. These are monster cookie bars. We're putting them into a cookie sheet or a jelly roll pan and just putting them in the oven all at once and then cutting them into squares. And that's the easiest way to make them, and they're absolutely delicious made that way. I know you can make them into cookies, so if you want to make them into cookies, that's fine too. So monster cookies are basically chocolate, peanut butter, and oats. Now, if you can't have flour, this is a great treat to have because there's no flour in these. So I'm going to show you how to mix them up. It's super easy, and like I said, they are delicious. So the first thing I'm going to do is, you do want to have a large mixing bowl, and if you have a big stand mixer, it's the easiest thing to do is to mix them up in here. If you don't, it's okay. You can mix them by hands, but it's going to take a lot of elbow grease. So we're going to mix them up in here, and we're going to use the paddle attachment. Make sure my speaker's on. Yeah. So I've got the paddle attachment on there. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 1 stick of room temperature butter so it's softened. Now, if you need to soften yours in the microwave, be really careful. Like I've said in other videos, if it calls for softened butter, don't melt it. If it calls for cold butter, don't use softened, because the temperature of the butter is going to affect the texture of your end product. So follow the directions on this and use softened butter. And to this butter, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the brown sugar, and I have here 1 cup of packed brown sugar. And if you don't happen to have any brown sugar on hand, check out, I'm going to see if I can put a card right here or right here, and I've got a video on how to make your own brown sugar. Super easy. So we're going to put 1 cup of packed brown sugar and 1 cup of granulated sugar. We're going to mix it till fluffy and pale in color. And while that's mixing, I'm going to bring it down here a little closer. got my sugar and my butters, I want to add my peanut butter. And we're going to add 1.5 cups of peanut butter. Now on the peanut butter, the recipe says you should not use all natural. Now in our family, that's usually all we use is the Smucker's all natural peanut butter. But it does make a difference. And I made it, I think the first time with the all natural. And the texture of the batter is very different. It doesn't smooth out very well. I think the cookies themselves tasted pretty good, but they were a little different. So then I tried it with the just the regular peanut butter, and it did turn out better. But you decide what you want to do there. Again, no promises on how it's going to turn out. And again, your batter is kind of a funky, thick batter. I'm not sure why. So we've got our 1.5 cups of peanut butter. We have our cup of brown sugar, cup of white sugar, and a stick of room temperature butter. And we're going to keep mixing until it's all in there. Let's clean off the sides. And we whipped that for about 1.5 minutes. The recipe called for 1 to 2 minutes until it's pale and fluffy. And it looks like that's what we have, a nice fluffy mixture. Okay. So the next thing we're going to add is 3 large eggs. Let me grab these here. So we're going to do 1. I think I'm going to mix a little between each. 2. 3. Okay, that made it even fluffier. We're going to add a teaspoon or a tablespoon of vanilla. Mix that in. Okay, boy, that's smelling good too. I can smell the peanut butter and the vanilla mixed in there with it. Yum. Okay, scraping down the sides. Okay, the next ingredient is our oatmeal. Now this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of quick oats and 3 cups of the old-fashioned oats. Now we usually only have the old-fashioned on hand because we buy it in the real big bags and put it in big plastic containers and store it, since we go through quite a bit of oats in our family. And it's also more economical to buy it that way. And so I have the whole grain oats. Then I also have oat flour that I make just by blending in my in my Ninja mixer. I just blend the oats and get a kind of a coarse flour that I use for a lot of my cooking. Now, if you only have the oats that are old-fashioned, go ahead and make it 4.5 cups of old-fashioned oats. They'll just be a little bit more, the texture will be just a little different. But since I don't have the quick oats, but I do have the oat flour, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of using the quick oats, I'm going to substitute a little bit, like a heaping cup of oat flour for the quick oats. And that works well for me. It's always turned out really good. In fact, I think I almost like it better. All right, so we're going to start with, I think I'm going to start with my oat flour. And again, we're going to add, let's see if I've got something that'll fit in there. Just a nice heaping cup. Okay. And that should be pretty much equivalent to 1.5 cups of quick oats. And I'm going to mix that in first. Then I'm going to add my 3 cups of old-fashioned oats. And I may have to do this with a smaller cup. Oh, I think I can do it. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, there's my 3 cups of oats, but before I mix it, I am also going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda. And since baking soda has a tendency to get lumps in it, what I like to do is put my baking soda in my teaspoon, and then I like to take my thumb and just kind of push down on it as I'm sprinkling it in there, and that will break up all those lumps. Okay, so we have 3 cups of oats in there and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. That's getting nice and thick and yummy. Now the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of mini M&Ms and 1 cup of miniature chocolate chips. Now, if you have those, that's great, but you can still make a delicious cookie or bar cookie without those. I am just going to use some chocolate chips, regular size. I've got semi-sweet, I've got milk chocolate, and I have also put in here some dark chocolate. So I've just put an assortment of different chocolate chips. Those are fine. We don't normally have the M&Ms on hand, but every once in a while at a bulk food store they'll have them on sale and I'll pick some up. But this is what we have on hand, and I'm not buying something different just because it'll look cool. But with kids, M&Ms, you can use regular size. I've heard of people also saying that you can use the peanut butter M&Ms mixed with the regular M&Ms, and that's really good. So you make it yours, whatever you like. But I'm going to add, and it adds up to 2.5 cups of chocolate. Mine's just 2 cups. 2 cups. And we gave it a quick mix there to make sure that those chips were well incorporated. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take a cookie sheet that has an edge or a jelly roll pan. And I love the insulated pans because they help insulate from burning, and they cook it a little more evenly. They usually take a little bit longer to cook in an insulated pan, but that's okay. And they want you to either grease the pan, use parchment paper or a Silpat. I always just grease and use my spray. Okay. Then, see how thick this is? I'll bring it over so you can see it. Get that off of there. Okay, that's what we've got. We're just going to dump it right into the pan. And I'll need to scrape a little bit of it out. And then work it down. The recipe also says that you can sprinkle some of your chips or your M&Ms on top to make it look nice. We're just going to have the ones that are showing show, and that's it. And I'm just using a silicone spatula. You can use your hands. You can grease your hands and push it down. And then I like just to make sure it is nice and pressed down and even all around so an area doesn't burn or get cooked a little quicker. I want them all to cook about the same rate. And one thing, if you notice your bar cookies or things like that tend to puff up in the middle and your sides are down lower, make sure your center doesn't have too much dough in it. And sometimes I even put just a little bit less and then put a little more around the edges where it cooks a little faster. And that's worked for me. All right, this is what we're going to put in the oven, and my oven's set for 350. It says to cook 17 to 20 minutes. The edges will be lightly browned and the middle will still look pale and underdone, but will finish cooking as it cools. Let cool for at least an hour so the bars can firm up and come together. You do not want to overbake these bars, and I agree, they do get pretty hard if you bake them. So my oven, I'm going to take just a little bit longer than the 20 minutes, but it's going to be close to that. And this insulated pan also slows it down just a little. All right, I'll bring you back when they're done. All right, I just pulled it out of the oven, and mine took about 23 minutes. And you know that it's done when it's puffy all the way into the middle. So it puffed up all over. It's a little lightly browned on the sides, but I know it cooked all the way through because it puffed all the way around and in the middle. So now, even though it is soft and I touch it, it collapses. It's soft. It's okay. We're going to let it cool a little bit and then we're going to taste test it. All right. See you in a minute. All right, friends, they've been cooling probably 10 to 15 minutes, so they haven't cooled very much, but we're gonna go ahead and do a taste test. So I'm gonna cut these and see what we got. Hopefully they'll come out of the pan okay, since they still are pretty warm. I'll just take, let's see what this one can come out. Very hot and melty. Ooey and gooey. All right. Now when they're fully warm, you can eat them with your hands. But right now, all right, so I'm going to use a fork since they're still hot. I'm going to use a fork, and they're kind of fall apart, but they will be firm and solid whenever they cool. So here we go. Definitely need a cup of milk with this. Very, very good. Very rich. Very fudgy. Very peanut buttery. You're gonna like these. Give them a try. Monster cookie bars. They are delicious.